Hi, this is Terry Bach, and welcome to the Rewrite Your Money Story series. I know that having the income you often want feels impossible sometimes. You work hard and you want to earn well for that. You might even have some income goals, but they just don't seem to be happening. And you're tired of downsizing your life to fit your income. You feel frustrated and hopeless that you're ever going to have that life that you really want. So I've brought together some incredible experts who will talk about shattering your income goals, how to go beyond what you thought possible. And they'll each be talking about it from their own unique point of view. So today I have invited Sally Thibault, who will be talking about how to build a business, a life, how to build a life of success, wealth, and purpose. So Sally is a transformational wellness coach, professional speaker and counselor, an author, and an EFT trainer. She believes that our most limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging behaviors show up in one of three areas: body, our relationships, and our bank accounts. And that's the path, and that the path to healing one is the path to healing all. So welcome, Sally. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Terry. I'm very excited.
Good. I can't wait to find out some information. So
Mhm.
as you see it, what do you think are the three biggest issues that most women face in creating success?
Yeah, I love your introduction, because it's really about, transforming what we believe is possible. And I think for many women in particular, we tend to play small. We tend to play small in many aspects. And then the three biggest issues that I've seen in the years I've been working with women in particular is, number one is value and worth, how we actually value our own worth. And that a lot comes down to, you can see that in the choices that we make daily, because
Right.
those daily choices we make are very dependent on our beliefs about how we value ourselves, whether that be money or relationships or in our food and weight. It all comes down to those choices. The second one is the imposter syndrome I see coming up a lot for women. And what I love about the imposter syndrome, it's not just about, us people, people doing what we do, but people such as Michelle Obama, Oprah Winfrey have all talked at some stage about overcoming their own imposter syndrome. And I think this plays out for many women, where we just have this sense of who do we think we are, what makes us think we're so special, and that shows up for us. And of course, the third one is just that incredible self-sabotage, that no matter what path we're on, and I see this happen all the time, the closer we get to success in any area, the more we begin to sabotage ourselves. And again, that often comes down to vulnerability, feeling fearful about being vulnerable.
Right, right. Or judged or criticized or, yeah, any of that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, how do you see, and I want to get back to some of those in a minute, but how is our relationship with our body and our relationships? How do you see those connected to money?
Well, as you said in the introduction, it's one path. Once you heal one, you heal all, and it comes down to
Right.
that value and worth
Mm-hmm.
issue all over again. Do in my experience, I find that people in particular often have one issue that they find really challenging. Like they might have their money and their relationships
Mm-hmm.
sorted out, but their issues with their weight, or got their money, their relationships and their body sorted out, but money's the big issue. And it doesn't
Yeah,
matter what one of those three are. It usually is the same underlying beliefs about value and worth.
exactly. Yeah.
And then when you can smash through that, usually the other two, those issues, will actually naturally heal as well.
Mm-hmm. I have found that too with working with women who have money issues, that they're also really struggling with their weight. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like,
Mm-hmm.
if they have some debt issues, they will, instead of spending money, or they have an overspending problem, let's say, instead of doing that, if they can kind of curb that, what they tend to do is overeat then. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
And because, and food and our body actually has very little to do with food. or
Mm-hmm.
exercise. It
Exactly.
really is about what you were saying before. If you're working on one particular area and it's not coming together, you'll tend to sabotage other areas.
Mm-hmm.
And women in particular, we're masters at this emotional responses to things.
Right.
You know, I was a fitness instructor for many, many years, and what you people get all excited about wanting to you know, change things. Now, whether that be money or whether that be weight, they want to change things, and then after a period of time, it all gets too hard. Go back to old
Right.
patterning.
Yeah,
And you kind of feel like and so
exactly.
we tend to turn inwards and beat ourselves up rather than staying on that path of what you need to do.
Right. And then after beating yourself up, it just makes the problem even worse, of course. So,
Yeah, we move into, you know, that shame. Of course, you know, Dr. Brene Brown's done that wonderful work and that whole area around
yes.
shame. And I think shame is the biggest issue for many women, especially around money. I found that
Mm-hmm.
many women have shame around money. Either they don't want to promote themselves in order to make money because that
Right.
feels like you're, you know, in Australia, we call it sort of tooting your own horn, you know,
Right.
stepping out,
Yes.
making yourself bigger than what you think you are, or showing off.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when it comes to weight, it's the same thing. So it's really,
Right.
it's all interconnected.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I know when we talked before, you talked quite a bit about ageism and how that plays a part. So how do you see that playing a part in the role of creating success?
Wow, I
Or
think it's
stopping it.
huge. Yeah, stopping it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's
Right.
two aspects to that. The media continually feeds us information. You know, every time I see
Right.
an advertisement for an over 50s retirement village, I think they're not talking to me.
I
That's
know.
for old people. That's for
Right.
old people. But then there
Exactly.
comes the internal dialogue. You know, that kind of you call it the, you know, that sort of inner saboteur that'll say things like, well, maybe I am too old to do this, or, you know, I don't look right. And especially for women who are perhaps wanting to expand their reach online, they're concerned
Right.
about how they look. Have I, you know, am
Exactly.
I getting too old? Because this, you know, I don't know what it was like in the US, but we've got this huge, huge amount of people that have plastic surgery and, you know, all
Yes.
sorts of things that turn back the
Yes.
clock. And so there's this internal dialogue that goes on at the same time. And you've got to be very careful of what you tell yourself. You know, things like, oh, I'm too old for
Absolutely.
this garbage, or, you know, I've
Hmm.
been there, done that. All these little sayings that just flow off our tongue so quickly, but lock us into this sense of, well, maybe I'm too old to do this anymore. And it's just
Hmm.
that sense that plays out both sides. So, you know, whenever you see an ad for an over 50s retirement village, you stay with, "Ugh, I'm not even there yet. I don't know who they're talking to, but they're not talking to
Yeah.
me."
So you kind of
And then watch that
train what you
internal.
say to yourself to, in a
Exactly.
kind of reframe that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed it in particular at one stage in my life where I was finding, as I get up out of bed in the morning, I was saying things like, oh, or, oh, you know, oh, here we go. It was just this kind of flow. Like, I wasn't even aware of it. And
Hmm.
until I kind of went, oh my gosh, that's such an old way of thinking, you know, that, oh, I've got to get out of
Exactly.
bed. And I had to really retrain my brain to the moment I wake up in the
Hmm.
morning. The first thing I do is meditate anyway. But the moment I woke up was to go, wow, let's get on with the day. I had to retrain my
Yes.
brain to do that. So you've got to just watch
Yes.
that internal dialogue all the time.
And it's not always easy to catch. It's not always, yeah. And I know sometimes I find myself, and I have a friend who's really good at saying, hey, stop that.
Yes.
No. And,
Yes.
and I'm usually pretty positive, but I
Mm-hmm.
myself, you know, when I switched careers to coaching a few years ago, I thought, what am I doing? Starting a new
Yeah.
career at my age. All my friends are retiring, and I'm
Yes.
starting a new career. And now I'm really excited about starting a new career. Yeah,
Yeah.
in coaching.
Yeah. And of course, what we bring now is we bring this knowledge. Like, we've got knowledge at our fingertips. You just have to Google anything, you know, and you will find
Right.
the information. But what we bring, so especially women over 45, over 50, we bring this life experience. You know, we
Yes.
can kind of separate the wheat from the chaff really quickly because
True.
we'll know, well, hang on a minute, a friend of mine was recently telling me she was reading a book, it's on the bestseller list, about this woman who was talking about getting up early and creating your day and, you know, taking time for yourself. And she says in the next breath, I've never had children. I've only, you know, I'm not married. I'm only 35. And she's like, she kind of just slammed the book shut. Oh, for goodness sake, what would you know? You know, so we
Wow.
bring this wonderful wisdom
Yes,
that I think
absolutely.
is actually severely lacking with
Yes.
many, with much stuff that's happening at the present time. And I believe that's why it's so important for women in particular to really rewrite this money story, because you've got to have money in order to free up your mind to be able to create
You
and
do.
speak about those wisdom.
And I think you also have to learn to value what you bring to the table, whatever it is you do, you know, to be able to value what you do, whether it's, you know, you're older and have had life experiences, to really value that that's what you bring that somebody who's in their 20s or 30s may not bring, you know.
No, and that's right. You know, it's also, it's really interesting, isn't it? We're talking about, if you're talking about in business, you know, finding your niche and finding the types of women or of clients that you're dealing with. Now,
Right.
mine is pretty, you know, I've got mine pretty well set, you know, women over 50, you know, who are wanting to get on life, career and changing.
Right.
But just recently, I had a new client come on board who's in her 30s. And she
Mm,
really wanted to work with me because she said, I just see you as having been through it where I want to go,
nice.
and you have the wisdom. And I just thought, wow, that was a really big shift in the mindset for me
Right.
about ensuring, you know, what is the message I'm sending
Mm-hmm.
the people I'm working with. And that's why I think it's,
Right.
you know, this is wonderful work that you're doing. We're helping women rewrite their money stories so we're free. You know, that Abraham
Right.
Maslow's hierarchy theory. You know, you've got to
Mm-hmm.
take care of food and shelter first before you can self-actualize.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
if you're worried about money, you can't share your gifts. That doesn't
Yeah.
work like that. Mm.
Right. Yeah. And we want to help women not worry about money so much and to start earning and to start earning.
Yes.
So earlier you mentioned self-sabotage. So what is self-sabotage anyway, for, you know, for from your point of view? And,
Yes.
you know, what do we need to understand about it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Self-sabotage is just this innocuous thing that we do. It shows up because it's
Yeah.
always masked as something else. Procrastination, excuses, I'm too busy is usually the
Right.
big
That's a big
self-sabotage when I'm
one. Yeah.
too busy. But in my experience, you know, I've worked with women who are really catapulting their careers.
Mm,
And it doesn't matter what level they get to, there's always another challenge, an internal challenge that comes up for them. So self-sabotage is something that comes in layers, I believe. You just feel
mm-hmm.
like you've got one thing handled and something else will come up. And I
True.
often, it's that stepping back and going, okay, what's really going on for me here?
Mm,
Why am I procrastinating? It's got nothing to do with laziness.
right.
For me, procrastination is very, very linked to self-worth
Mm-hmm.
and self-value. And that procrastination is the barrier, stops you from
Right.
stepping into your true self, because of the fear of success, usually, which is, I think, is really fascinating. And most women I work with are more fearful of success than they are fearful of failure.
I
So they'll
find the
create,
same thing too. Yeah.
yeah, so
There's
they'll
all
create
that
these
fear of,
barriers.
yeah, all that fear of what's going to come up if I am successful. What are people going to think? What are, you know, am I going to get criticized? And so you up level and you, oh, kinds of new stuff comes
Yes.
for you.
You know, because there's another thing that happens that you know, women are very tribal. We love our tribe. We love our friends, our network, our connection. That's how we interact. That's why you see
Mm-hmm.
more women on Facebook than you see men, is because we love that tribal interconnection. But as you change, like maybe making more money, or with a lot of women I work with, as they lose weight,
Mm-hmm.
it starts to impact on their network, because as you change and you
Right.
are actually challenging others around you to change as well, and they may not want to. So
Right.
they'll start to, as I love Maya Angelou's quote, where she said, pecked to death by ducks. somebody
Oh,
will just
wow.
say something, oh, you're doing very well, but don't ever forget where you come from. Or I
Yes.
remember you when you were, like this way of
Right.
just kind of keeping you, my father used to say, down a peg or two. It's just, and so when that comes up, oftentimes we will self-sabotage because we don't want to lose our tribe.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
sometimes we have to. Sometimes we have to lose the tribe. Sometimes we have to remake a new tribe, because as I think it was Jack Canfield who first said, your net worth is determined by your network. Other way around. Your net worth is, net worth, that's right. Said the right thing. It's very early here in Australia.
So say it again. Yes, I'm sorry about that.
Your net worth is determined by your network. So look around you and see who are the 5
Yes.
people you spend time with most. What are their goals
Mhm.
and visions? What's the words they use? You can often hear what you're not saying
Right.
in the words of your friends and your family. You go, oh,
Right.
maybe I do that as well. And
So
so that
your
whole
net,
thing around
yeah.
this, your whole thing around your self-sabotage is where you may be needing to change your tribe or not spend as much time with the
Absolutely.
tribe.
Yeah. So your net worth is determined by your network.
Work. Mm.
Yeah, network. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a great quote. I like that. And it's
Yeah.
true. I find, you want to keep changing who you're hanging out with. As you change, as you move up, you want to reconnect with people, or you want to connect with people who are at a different level too, because otherwise
That's right.
you're going to necessarily keep growing.
Yeah. And I think it's really important as women that we continue to network up. I think
Mhm.
there's a tendency for many women to network as part of a group that you're quite comfortable with.
Exactly, because it is comfortable, but it's not
It's
going to get you
comfortable.
to where you want to be. If assuming you want to be up leveling.
Yes, yes. And especially we can learn so much from other people.
Right.
I'm
Exactly.
one of the things that I'm doing this year, one of my intentions this year is to network more. So I'm
Yes.
out now networking more because
Right.
I think number one, you need to create the relationships. But number two, there's so many things you can learn from other people, especially in business.
Absolutely. Yes.
And you might not learn from the speaker if you're going to an event and there's a speaker, but you might have a conversation with somebody who
Mhm.
you think, oh, that's an interesting concept I can put in my own business, or that's an interesting way that I'm viewing money. Here's another way.
Right.
It's about continually up leveling
Mhm.
and looking at how you can. I think hanging around people who are more successful than you is wonderful because there's always something to learn.
Right. Exactly. So we were talking about self-sabotage, and we got clearer on what that is. How do you help people? How do you help women um, kind of identify what's going on? Because I know that people don't always know what it is they're doing to self-sabotage, or what to do to get rid of it.
Yeah, and I think that's where you really absolutely need somebody else to listen to you because it's very difficult
Mhm.
sometimes. You don't hear the words, the
True.
meaning of the words, and I'm sure you're like this as well as a coach. I'm constantly listening to
Hmm.
the words that people are not saying.
Right.
Um, I recently was working with a client. We were talking about a food issue that she had, and she just said this kind of statement that came out of the blue. And I sort of stopped. Said, what was that you just said? And she stopped. And it was amazing because what happened, we went through and actually worked together using
Okay.
EFT
Yes.
on what the issue was. And it turned out to be this massive big issue. But it was just a word, just a sentence that she said. She didn't realize that she'd said it. And that's where I think coaching is really important
I
because
do
as a
too.
coach,
Hmm.
you can listen and we need to be called out on some of the things that we say.
Right.
With
Right.
those 70 or 80,000 thoughts we've got that fly through our mind every day, they're often the things
Yeah.
we say and the words we say, they're not engaged. But if you
And
have, it's really is about looking at the words you say to yourself,
right.
and as a coach, and I love listening to people,
Yes.
love sitting back listening to conversations because
Hmm.
I can very well quickly now go, oh, that's the block right there. Well, that's a limiting
Exactly.
belief.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when you've been doing this for a while, it's kind of easy for us to pick it out and say,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's not necessarily in ourselves, but in other people. Because it's very
yeah,
difficult to see in yourself, I think.
very. I think that's why having a coach is so important. If you really want to up
Mm,
level and upskill,
right.
I have a coaching group I'm involved in a coaching organization at the moment, and I have two sets of accountability partners, and because they just challenge me all the time to, will
That's great.
call me out.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, even last year, just back in December, I was putting on an event and I said, I just said to my accountability group, nobody books in for events in December. And one of my accountability partners said, what did you just say? And so she challenged me. And of course, I had
Good.
one of my most
Yes.
successful events in December. But I didn't even think that was a limiting belief until she called me out.
Yes. It's amazing how many limiting beliefs we have that we're not aware of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I know one of the other things you mentioned was the imposter syndrome. So
Mm-hmm.
is that again a little bit more clarity on what that means to you? And because I hear the term a lot from some of my clients too. And how do you think that impedes our success?
Hugely. In fact, Dr. Valerie Young was the original researcher that looked into the imposter syndrome and found about 75 to 80% of entrepreneurs or
Mm,
career-driven people experience the imposter syndrome at some point
wow.
in their careers. And I
Okay.
have a friend of mine who's a coach for a
Mm-hmm.
big organization, and she said I would even push that to 90%. She said I
Oh,
see that
really?
more and
Yeah.
more. And there's 5 aspects of the imposter syndrome. If you want, I'll share those with you.
Sure.
That people can probably identify. Number one is the perfectionist. Now, the perfectionist is the person,
Mm,
okay, I've got to be the right weight, or I've got to have the right things in place before I do anything. So, and
exactly.
it's just part of the imposter syndrome. I'm not perfect enough. Number two is, this is my category. I had to put my hand up, the superwoman, Superman,
Okay.
that has, can balance all these balls, but and tends to do something for everybody else, but never achieves what they really want. More important to say I'm busy, more important to say I've got so much on, than
Mm-hmm.
actually let go, because it's a way of masking. I'm superwoman. I've got so many balls in the air. Number
Right.
three is what they call the natural genius. And this actually is my daughter. These are the people
Mm,
who, for all intents and purposes, look like they are naturally good at what they do, but they actually work very hard to achieve success. And then when they will not take on a task until they know it inside out. So, and then if they
okay.
don't get it absolutely 100% first go, feel shame. And so they'll tend to pull back. They won't take up opportunities. That, how intuitively you'll see opportunities coming by, and whether you take that opportunity or not depends where you're at. Often natural geniuses won't take those opportunities because they don't think they're good enough at it yet.
Okay.
Um, Number four is what they call the soloist. The soloist is the person who will not delegate.
Mm,
They'll take it all on board themselves. And the
right.
reason they don't delegate is they have a fear that someone will find out they don't know what the heck they're talking about. So
Ah,
they will
okay.
just, so
Yes.
they'll hold everything in. I see a lot of women who won't, get somebody to assist them in their business, won't ask for a coach because they just feel that
Right.
someone might find out they're not particularly good at it. And the last one is the reluctant expert. And this is the person, we probably all know them, that is they've got so many degrees, or they've done so many
Mm,
things, but they don't like being called an expert because they feel they don't yet know enough. And so they're continually learning. I used to work in education, and I had a principal of the school who had done 2 bachelor's degrees, a master's degree, and was going on to his PhD. And there was just this, yes, learning more, but it was more that he just felt he needed to know more things.
right.
So
Because they don't feel
that's
good
where
enough. Yeah.
enough, exactly.
Right.
And
Right.
that imposter syndrome will show up usually whenever you're about to up level. It
Mm,
will just come up. And so when you recognize it, you know that you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
And you go, oh, okay, right. I'm feeling like an imposter. And I said before, you know, it was lovely to hear Michelle Obama talk about it, you know, Oprah Winfrey
Right,
talk about it.
exactly. Yes.
Many people who are successful will talk about the imposter syndrome at some point in their life.
I've heard it mentioned so many times.
Yes, yeah.
So many times. Okay, so let me go over those just to make sure. So first one is perfectionistic or perfection. Yeah,
Yes.
perfectionistic. Superwoman or man, natural genius.
Yes.
Soloist, a reluctant expert is the fifth one.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, it's really interesting because you probably will know people in your world who are like that.
Right.
You'll like
Absolutely.
when I started studying into this, I recognized that's what my daughter was, a natural genius, and she's got quite a career in media. But there was a stage where she was kind of holding her back from those little opportunities that were coming up, and we were able to identify, honey,
Yes.
this is what's going on. Clear that. We used EFT to clear that so she could then continue to go on. But it's just, you know, she phoned me one day and said there was this opportunity to do this show, and I just stood back and went, I'm not ready. There it was.
Exactly.
There it was right there.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's good to be able to identify these things too. So
absolutely.
So, wow. Great information, Sally. Thank you so much. I understand that you do have a free gift for the audience.
I do.
Describe that.
Yes, this is what I call my 10-step manifestation guide to getting anything you want. It's the steps I go through whenever I want to create something more in my life or manifest. I actually go through these 10 steps.
Okay.
And it's a guide. Do you want me to just run through them quickly? And
absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So number one is make a decision. What do you really want?
Okay.
So important. You know, we have so many options in our lives. Unless you make a decision and be absolutely clear on what you really want. And I find that I ask a client what they want, they'll tell me everything they don't want.
Exactly. Yeah. It's hard to be clear sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to money. Okay. Why? What do you want to? So that leads to the second one. So it's make a decision. Second one is create the vision.
Okay.
So if you want to make more money in your life, for instance, why? What does that look like? What does that allow you to do? I'm a great believer in creating a vision board and being very specific in your vision board, not just pretty pictures, but very specific. I often take photos and actually print them out. Third is to embrace the emotions. It's Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, where, you know, when you make a decision and you set the intention to where you want to head, you're going to come up against the bumps. You're going to come up against the times. But if you have an emotion that sits behind it with joy, love, happiness, success, whatever that emotion is, it can help in those times when you've got the bumps. You want to go back to the feeling. That's why I'm doing this, because I want to feel this. Number 4, called simple implementation.
What if you want to make cut out a little bit?
Simplify the implementation.
Okay.
Because if you have too much to do, brain gets overwhelmed. If you can simplify I do a thing called the 2 and 20 principle, where I get my clients to simplify everything down into 20-second segments, or 20-minute segments in their day, or 2-minute segments in their day. So simplifying what you're doing. For instance, if you want to make more money, okay, how much are you going to save? How much am I going to save? How am I going to pay my credit? Have that come out of your account without you even knowing it. Set up an automatic payment. Simplify that, so you're not having to think about it. The next one is commit to action. Okay, what are you going to do? And making that commitment to the action. I love that dog bounce. It's a great time in the background, right? Commit to action. Okay, what are you actually going to do? 66 days to create a new habit. Most people give up at 21.
I have always heard 21. Yeah.
This is what Robin Sharma in his book The 5 a.m. Club talks about. 66 days for a decision to become a habit. Okay. Number 5 is ask the right questions. We've talked a lot about that today. Asking the right question. What's really going on for me?
Right.
What do I really want?
Yeah.
Tend to go to the negative. Transform the limitations. This is where EFT visualization, meditation come in, looking at where yourself is holding yourself back.
Right, right.
Number 3 is practice meditation. To me, meditation is number 1, you know, for calming your mind, and really getting very clear on your vision. Trusting your intuition is number 9. We have this incredible wisdom, you know, learning to trust your intuition. And then last one is releasing all expectation. Because sometimes when we set a goal or intention, what the result of it actually isn't what we expected, but can be
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And
so
we
learning to
work on the process instead of just letting it happen.
Oh, you know,
Yeah.
it works for everything. You know, when you release the expectation of how you think it should be,
You're right. Right.
you're open to whatever the universe provides for you. So yeah, that's the free
Exactly.
gift. That's all listed in the
Wonderful.
free.
That sounds absolutely incredible. And for the audience, all you need to do is click on the button below this video and it'll take you right to Sally's free gift. Sally, thank you again for being here, for being on this series.
Oh,
I really enjoyed talking with you.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the invitation, and I hope that it's been valuable for.
It absolutely has been, yes. And thank you to the audience for listening to the Rewrite Your Money Story series. Tune in again for our next expert who will also be sharing their perspective on shattering our income goals. Bye for now.